Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of autism, where the true crime is as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases. But the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Em.
And I'm Meg.
Keep your arms, legs, and other extremities in the vehicle at all times, and enjoy the show.
Mornings.
Do you want to hear about how horrible my voice sounds right now?
Oh no.
Welcome to this change of seasons. The trees are fucking.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I always wanted to sound like Phoebe Buffay on that Sick episode. Smelly cat, smelly cat. What I sound like, what's his name from Pearl Jam? Oh my god. Eddie Vedder. Not Pearl Jam. Yeah, Pearl Jam. Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
Here you go. There's some mud in your eyes. Shit. I do have a small snippet, but that'll probably be the next episode.
Okay.
If you have anything.
Turns out I have two topics that are actually done.
Ooh.
On top of a
Schmurder.
killer that I have done.
Well,
So a surprise! I thought I just had one, but I have two. Well, three including the killer, but a surprise to me.
I mean, it's a surprise, dude. I just felt like I hit puberty. So this is coming out. Let's see here. Hold on. So we pre-record these episodes for those of you who don't know. So this one's coming out on the 14th. So Josh has already, hopefully, come home. And oh god, I did the exact specifications that you asked.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Just wanted to make sure it was recording on the right channels, because guess what went out last night?
Of course.
Oh, excuse me. So, Rachel, you know.
Yes.
So, we each bought him.
I myself had bought.
You bought. I bought. And then I bought another. I bought. Yeah, so I just put those in the cabinet. But,
Yeah.
I ate one of them. They're actually really good. But, don't know why, but it's just, she had specifications for how it was wrapped.
Of course. Because of how he had wrapped my birthday / Christmas gift.
Listen, I made it. He put it in the box, and I'm in the middle of wrapping the kids' gifts. And I look over, and he's got this roll of duct tape, and he's just going to town. And I was like, whose present is that? And he's like, Rachel's. And I was like, why are you wrapping her entire present in duct tape? Why not? Q2, his birthday. She goes, can you wrap it in duct tape? Why? Why not?
I mean, payback's a bitch.
Right. So, of course, she wanted me to make it difficult to open. So, each of them are stuck together with a little...
They're coupled together
with a little cardboard around it. And each roll of cans is 4 layers. Wrapping paper, duct tape, wrapping paper, duct tape, wrapping paper, duct tape. And the last one is just wrapping paper. And then they're stuffed in a box, and it's got so much stuff in there, they don't even move. So it's just like 50 pounds. And then the extra box is in a separate box, coated in bubble wrap, also wrapped 4 times. This one is not wrapped in cellophane, so it's just wrapped like a normal everyday box. But it's wrapped with duct tape and everything. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
The ones that I bought them, are they going to be in duct tape? No. No. Do I want to? Yes. Am I going to? No.
Oh, and to add a little sprinkle of surprise to his birthday, I bought miniature or just black, glow in the dark. And those should be arriving over the next day. And so I have instructed her to and then scatter them throughout the house for him to find.
Listen, Loki is here for this chaos. I unfortunately am gonna have to do the bidding, but
I know. If I was there, I would do it.
oh, but... I know. I can't hide any in here, obviously.
Well, obviously.
But I'm gonna hide them in his office, in the bedroom,
and the bathroom, the kitchen,
just
in his car.
Right now. Well, when he gets the car back here, yeah, I'll put him in his car. I was half tempted to see if I can get on base just to find his car, unlock it, and put them in there. Just so he can be like, what the fuck?
That would be fantastic, but not going to push our luck on that.
No, not at all. Not at all. Emily said she was coming on today. If she doesn't wake up on time, that's on her. I set 3 alarms today, 1 for 5, 1 for 6, and 1 for 7. Because I was like, if I'm gonna get out of bed, I'm gonna do it.
Oh. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I had my alarm set for 7:45, and I just went, I don't want to get up.
Yeah.
So I hit snooze. It went off like 8 minutes later. I was like, I need to get up.
Mine did the bagpipes of Scotland.
Oh God.
That'll
do it.
Do you know what the bagpipes of Scotland is?
Of course I know what the bagpipes of Scotland is.
I don't think our listeners know what the bagpipes of Scotland is. Hold on.
It's a noise that will get you up in the morning.
So, yeah, this is 7 minutes. 7 minutes in. I don't really care because this is funny as hell.
Loud as fuck.
Loud. So I worked.
Loud as fuck, boys.
I worked for a priest, and that was his ringtone when he would call me. Back when I had the chocolate bar from LG, and you could get songs from Crazy Frog, and that was.
Oh God, I miss Crazy Frog. Not the song Crazy Frog. I miss the site.
Yes, because you could get free ringtones. Meanwhile, iPhone, you have to buy all your stupid ringtones.
I know.
Stupid. Josh bought his. It's Bungai from Bleach. That was funny. Standing outside at the commissary and having that go off. And I was like, where the fuck is my phone? Because all of the weebs just looked at me and went, Sensei? No. No. Back the fuck off, bitch. So, you have a topic today.
Yeah.
I have a topic if we have time.
Okay. Well, one of them is relatively short.
Okay.
I say that. It's like 4 pages, but it's mostly short because it's mythical, but was in a very small area.
Okay. I mean, we last week we did I don't even we did.
What did we do last week?
Let me pull it up. Oh.
Wait, I wasn't here last week.
You weren't here.
Right. That's why I don't remember.
So Meg and Emily came on and the Chaos Double. So we talked about
twins.
We talked about we named them Baconators because we talked about Wendy's.
Ah.
So the entire episode we call them Baconators. It was
because we do not say the word.
No. You know, when talking about Peter Pan, you never talk about the words.
Right.
Never ever. People are playing
Anyways.
the damn phone. Anyways.
People. So one of my topics is the Snallygasher.
Bless you.
um, it was even in Harry Potter
Really?
in the Fantastical Beasts.
Ah, okay.
It's a chimera. I think I'm saying that word right.
Chimora. Yeah, Chimora.
Chimera, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, chimera is any mythical creature with parts of various animals, or uh, describes anything composed of various parts, or perceived as wildly imaginative, implausible, or dazzling. Basically, it's a hybrid creature.
Like a jackalope or um chupacabra.
Yeah, basically. My brain went for mixed breeds for some reason. I was just like, I mean, it works because
Yeah. I mean that's it's essentially the mutt of the
yeah.
cryptid world.
So basically, the Snallygaster is, they say it's a bird reptile hybrid,
Okay.
but in some lores it's more of a dragon reptile hybrid.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So it originated in the early German immigrant superstitions and later combined with sensationalist newspaper reports of a monster.
That's cool.
Yeah, so the early immigrants brought it over with them from obviously Germany.
Right.
Um, and they settled in Maryland, around Frederick County, so central Maryland. And later reports would expand the area to the DC metro area. So it grew a little bit.
Yeah. Couple of counties.
So early sightings were in Frederick County, specifically the areas of South Mountain, Braddock Heights, and Middletown Valley. So the name appears to have been derived from the German Schnellige or quick ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I know for 100% I did not pronounce that right.
So
Don't come at me, guys.
Geist is the last part.
Yes.
My old patient was German.
Schnelle.
Hold on, let me write that. Hold on. Okay. SCH.
Nelle.
Schnell.
Yes.
Schnellgeist. There you go.
Which is a term that usually denotes some type of poltergeist. I mean, makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So, in the 19th century, Western Maryland saw a flood of German immigrants who settled there as the Seneca people obviously were pushed further west because lack of land.
Colonizers.
Yeah. So, obviously, with the immigrants, they brought their folklore and superstitions, both the ghosts and the belief that the mountains were inhabited by dragons.
Yeah, I mean, inbreeding does that, you know.
I mean, but also, like, they have to make up something for the unexplainable.
Right. Yeah.
So, as the physician and polymath Johann Jacob Schneutzer had written in his 1723 travelogue of the Alps, the mountains were filled with scaly dragons and slimy dragons, dragons with wings and feet, and dragons with 2 legs and 4 legs, with and without wings, and sometimes without wings or legs, but the objectionable heads with semi-human features and an expression at once humorous and malignant. Sounds like he came across creatures he didn't know how to
explain.
He didn't have explanation for.
Right. Which is, you know, a good, like, my favorite thing to talk about is sorry, ADHD. Is the original description for butterflies was flutterby.
Yeah.
And it was mistranslated. So it was supposed to be called a flutterby.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
So, obviously, these beliefs found their way to the Appalachian Mountains,
Yep.
which had a lot more unexplainable or unnamed creatures
Which, as somebody
and
who,
cryptids.
yeah, I used to vacation out there, and that, we, we'll talk about that after.
Yeah. A DC socialite who had relocated to Maryland in the 1870s published a book of local folklore called South Mountain Magic Tales of Old Maryland in 1882. It includes the tale of the hoop snake, which was a dreaded creature that puts its tail in its mouth when in pursuit of its victim and rolls on with incredible rapidity.
What?
The reptile apparently wears a horn on its head and kills whatever it touches.
No, why? Why?
I don't know, but that's what she wrote about. Like,
Let's go back in time and just punch her. Why?
the unexplainable things had to have an explanation.
I.
And some of the explanations that they were given are hilarious looking back now.
Oh yeah, a lot of them.
So, decades later, a Jewish Austrian literature scholar, Leo Spitzer, um, had had escaped in the 1930s and settled at Maryland's Johns Hopkins University.
Okay.
Suggested that the Snallygaster was likely instead derived from the Wild Hunt, which was an old story with Norse and Christian origins.
Yep.
For those that don't know, in it, a troop of damned souls ride the skies between Christmas and Epiphany, faced by the Wild Hunter, the Norse god of wind and the dead, Odin, snatching unwary travelers, specifically children, along the way. Aside from Leo Spitzer, very few scholars have attempted to unravel the meaning of the Snallygaster. It is perhaps too obscure, too regionally focused, or just too bizarre.
I mean, it's definitely one of those stories. Sorry. Trees are fucking. It's one of those stories where it's like ingrained in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's that's where the term snipe came from. Was from the Snallygaster.
Yes.
Anyways, sorry.
So, well, it seems to have emerged from the old world. By the time it found its way into print in the US, it had taken a far more fantastical and bizarre aspect, with the reports of it sounding more like absurd tall tales than either journalism or traditional folklore.
I mean, as most quote unquote ghost stories
I mean,
go.
because you fan the flames and things spread rapidly.
Right.
So the Hagerstown Mail ran a report that the Smithsonian had attempted to classify the creature. They, in this quote, they write back that it is either a winged Bovolopus or a Snallygaster, as it has some of the characteristics of both. These animals are exceedingly rare, and the hide of the Snallygaster is said to be worth $100,000 a square foot, as it is the only thing known that will properly polish punctal shells used by, again, I would say this is a direct quote, by Africans of Umpo Paidland for ornaments. And they ran this report during the initial flurry of reports coming in of seeing this creature.
Of course they did.
Anyway, so 1800s, when early incarnations of the creature had mixed bird features of a siren, but nightmarish features of demons and ghouls. So, like, it was little different.
Right?
But it was also described as half reptile, half bird, having a metallic beak that was lined with razor sharp teeth, with occasionally having octopus like tentacles coming out of its beak.
So like a mimic?
Kind of.
Okay. That I understand what that is.
Yeah, but it was also said to be a dragon bird hybrid with one eye, a beak, and a dragon-like body and tentacles coming from its mouth. So like there was like a whole bunch of like different descriptions of this thing.
Why can't they just make up? It sounds like a what is that? A
Honestly, like
jabberwocky.
yeah,
It sounds like a jabberwock.
but also it kind of sounds like um I don't know, a gigantic bird that got like they either had like a bunch of twigs in its mouth that they saw flying by or had a snake in its mouth.
What is that one bird? Hold on. Hold on.
Okay. Please don't knock things over. But apparently, it was rumored to swoop silently from the sky to pick up and carry off its victims. And the earliest stories said that the monster would drink the blood of its victims.
Ugh.
Yeah. But supposedly, stars with 7 points would keep it at bay and can still be seen painted on local barns. But also, apparently, it had one widely known enemy, supposedly,
Okay.
which was the Wayo, Dwayyo,
Okay. Sure. Close
which
enough.
was supposedly a mammalian biped with features similar to a wolf, but the stance and stature of a human.
It's called a shoebill stork.
Oh yes, that the hippogriffs were
We're based off of. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another one
Um,
that's like a vulture, which is double the size. Shoebills are huge. They're taller
yeah.
than almost an NFL player. There's these
Oh yeah.
vultures that are in South Africa that are double the size. Where's
Even
that bird guy from TikTok that we follow? What's his name?
I don't know. I don't remember right now. But so apparently these two, um, the two enemies, reportedly had vicious encounters dating back to the early settlement of Middletown Valley.
Good for them.
So I'm just like, okay.
Right.
So 19th to 20th centuries.
Uh-huh.
Um, it had been suggested that the legends were resurrected to frighten the enslaved people to keep them in place because, oh, you don't want to go out at night. These things might get you
Right.
because fear, control tactic.
Because of the white men.
And of course, on February 12th, 1909, the same day that the NAACP was founded, the Valley Register ran a story titled "The Colored People Are in Great Danger," which described the creature and how this vampire devil only attacks colored people. It is seldom seen during the day, feeding at night only. And the strange part is that it seems to prefer colored men to colored women, though it attacks the latter at times. Guys, that was a direct quote. I do not reference people like that at all.
That is disgusting. I think I just vomited
Tell me
in my
about it.
mouth a little bit.
Another article from that period quotes an eyewitness who claimed that the Snallygaster was an omen of ill for colored voters who deserted the Republican Party in the presidential election.
That is an awful lot to say that with one's chest.
Right? Like, I had to take a break after I
Oh,
discovered it. I was like, I need a break from this.
I can only imagine.
Then, throughout February and March of 1909, newspaper accounts described encounters between local residents and a beast that had enormous wings, a long pointed bill, claws like steel hooks, and an eye in the center of its forehead. And apparently, it's also said to make screeches like a locomotive whistle.
So the bill that we just talked about, the
The
stork.
shoehorn, yeah.
Yes,
Except for they're not native to Maryland.
that's true. They are. They aren't. But I mean, it's a thought. It's a
I
thought.
know. So then a great deal of publicity surrounded a string of disappearances, where the Smithsonian Institute even offered a reward for its hide. President Theodore Roosevelt reportedly thought about postponing an African safari in order to personally hunt for it.
Gotta give it up for Teddy.
I mean, he was a collector of odd things,
He
but
was.
he's also the reason why we have state parks. So,
That's why I gotta give it up for him. You know.
yeah. Not so much the hunter part, but
No, no.
he did do a few good things.
Yeah, the here I've almost endangered an entire species. Here, have a park.
Right.
It's the thought that counts, you know?
Right. So in New Jersey, its footprints were reported to be found in snow.
Oh.
In West Virginia, it caught a woman near Scrabble and was found roosting in a farmer's barn and supposedly laid an egg that was the size of a barrel near Sharpsburg.
Hold on. There's a place in New York called Scrabble.
West Virginia.
West. If we have any listeners in West Virginia, I would like a picture of that sign, please.
So a man from Casstown, Ohio, wrote to the Valley Register about a strange creature that flew over his area and that it made horrible screeching noises. This man described it as having two enormous wings, a large horny head, and a 20-foot tail.
How about no?
Right. It was also sighted in Maryland by a man who ran a brick burning kiln near Cumberland. It was found near the kiln sleeping, but emitted a blood curdling scream when it woke up and flew angrily away. My only question is, how do you know it was angry when it flew away?
Right. It could have just been like, I don't like people. Go away.
Right. It was seen near Haggardstown, south of Middletown, at Lover's Leap, which is horrible name for like
Right.
a
cliff.
Right, like horrible choice of name, guys. And was seen flying over the mountains between Gatland and Burkittsville, where it was said to have laid another large egg.
I started laughing so hard I coughed.
I know.
I'm sorry.
But its last sighting was in Frederick County in March 1909 when three men fought the creature outside of a railroad station for nearly an hour and a half before chasing it into the woods of Carroll County.
Are we sure that they weren't drunk?
Or on something?
Right. I mean, West Virginia is known as the meth capital of the United States.
Well, this was back in Maryland, so, but I mean, like, well, they all kind of, like, eh. It was also 1909 when, Coke still had Coke in it.
Still had cocaine. Yeah.
And, prescription drugs were, would get you high. And...
They were something else, let me tell you.
Yeah. So after this, it supposedly wasn't seen again for 23 years. And I went, that sounds like a horror movie.
Right.
Like Jeepers
Synopsis.
Anybody?
Yeah.
It is guesstimated to have a lifespan of about 20 years, and any new sightings would have been from the 1909 offsprings and those offsprings. Because remember, it laid 2 eggs.
Supposedly. Right. Supposedly, yeah.
Yeah. So It was later revealed that the reports were all part of a hoax perpetrated by Middletown Valley Register editor George C. Roderick and reporter Ralph S. Wolf in an attempt to increase their readers.
Very Budman.
Of course.
Of course.
The invented descriptions were borrowed from existing Germanic folklore, which included dragon-like creatures who snatched children and livestock, and also appeared to invoke descriptions of the Jersey Devil, which will be in another episode.
Yes, Donnie Don, our
yes.
lovely Luna Faye,
requested it. Which apparently Jersey Devil apparently had been spotted mere weeks earlier. So, because it lacks any clear definition, the Snallygaster is well suited to adapt with the times, obviously, because you're creating what it looks like. In 1932, new reports appeared suggesting that it was drawn to moonshine stills hidden in the mountains. Because everybody likes a good drink.
Right.
On December 12th, the Register announced that the Snallygaster had fallen into a 2,500-gallon vat of backwoods liquor after being overcome by the fumes.
So he wasn't drunk? I'm pretty sure he was drunk, and he just fell back into the liquor like, oh my god, this was some good shit.
But by the time officials got there, the alcohol had completely eaten away at the animal, leaving only its bones, which were, for some reason, subsequently dynamited.
Can I just say, even though he's pissed off, I just sent you a photo. Even though he's pissed off, my husband still looks cute.
I'll look at it in a second.
Okay.
June 22nd, 1953, Whitaker Chambers, whose house was in Carroll County, Maryland, used the creature to examine U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy in his essay, Is Academic Freedom in Danger, in Life magazine.
Life
magazine, yeah.
Oh, great.
So, flash forward to 21st century.
Dun, dun, dun!
The Snallygaster appears as a boss fight in the Blair Witch Volume 2, The Legend of Coffin Rock, which takes place in 1886. In 2008, author Patrick Boyton, he scrolled up too far, published a history of the Galligaster entitled Galligaster, The Lost Legend of Frederick County.
Of course.
In 2011, an annual beer festival, a beastly beer jamboree called Snallygaster, started in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And 2017 edition of She Who Will Not Be Named, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, incorporated the Snallygaster into the Potter universe. It is described as a part bird, part reptile, relative of the Occamy. Did I say that right?
Alchemy. Yeah.
Occamy.
Oh, hold on. O.
Ccamy.
Occamy. Yeah.
Okay. With serrated steel fangs, a bulletproof hide, and a natural sense of curiosity.
Yeah, the trees are fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A creature called a Snallygaster appears in the 2018 Bethesda game Fallout 76. It bears little resemblance to the creature of legend and is described in the game as a failed genetic experiment. So the Snallygaster is a blended whiskey produced by Dragon Distillery of Frederick, Maryland, and was released in 2018. South Mountain Creamery, a dairy farm located in Frederick County, Maryland, produces an ice cream flavor named Snallygaster.
What?
It consists of peanut butter flavored ice cream with a caramel swirl, peanut butter cups, and pretzels.
That sounds honestly... Wait, go back. Say that one more time, because that sounds delicious.
Peanut butter flavored ice cream with caramel swirl,
Yes.
peanut butter cups, and
Yes.
pretzels. If I
Yes.
wasn't allergic to peanut butter,
Yeah,
I could
I
always have
know.
it.
I know. Make it with like sunflower butter.
Yes. And
Yes.
then in 2021, Sarah Cooper, a cryptozoologist in Maryland, opened the American Snallygaster Museum in Libertytown, Maryland. And also, there is a mural at an of the Snallygaster on a Jersey barrier in Udari, Kuwait.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure it's probably like on a military base, but
Probably more than
there
likely.
is a picture of it that I found. But yeah, no, that's the Snallygaster. Wasn't a whole lot of things, but
I mean, if if anybody knows anything about, do you remember your parents telling you about snipes when you went camping or the Girl Scouts?
uh, well, I think like one person mentioned it.
My dad used to bring it up because he was a
Yeah.
Boy Scout leader. And I remember I was sitting around the campfire and it's a bunch of dads. We're all just hanging out. And they were some good guys, you
Yeah.
hear the horror stories about the bad troops. My dad's
Oh
troop
yeah.
was one of the good ones because anytime any kids have any issues or they needed something, they would go around and they talked about the snipe. And we would go camping in Big Basin or Yosemite or somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
out there. And I remember one time we're out there camping, Big Basin, as we do out in California. And I was like, Daddy, I want to go hunting for the snipe. And he goes, No, sweetheart, you're gonna stay right here. And so one dad would go with 3 boys. Another dad would go with another 3 boys. I think there were 12. And it would just be me and like 2 other dads just sitting with my dad at the campsite.
Yeah.
And he told me the snipe was just a story, just to kind of help them get all their anxiety out and get all their
Yeah.
anxious things. Snipes don't actually exist. Um, one of my friends ended up telling me after I moved to Virginia that a bunch of the wives' tales that were told about the Appalachian Mountains were just wives' tales to keep
Yeah.
not
Children inside the house. Keep them in their
yeah,
beds.
and also to keep the snooty upper class people out of the mountains because they were
Yeah.
finding all this land out there and oh my god how beautiful the houses would be, and then they would go into town and talk to local people and be like, oh, have you heard about this? Oh man, you got to watch out for that. And they're like, oh, how dreadful. And then they would
Right.
leave.
Not buy up the land so that way they could
Right.
still hunt it and farm it, and things still stayed relatively inexpensive.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah.
I have a bit.
Okay.
Okay, let me pull it up. So you talked about the East Coast.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to talk about the West Coast.
Okay.
So, have you ever been out to the West Coast?
Once I went out to Seattle.
My bladder said, "Excuse me."
Okay.
Dude, dude. Well, that just popped up out of nowhere. My body's like, "Fuck you," and it's like, no.
It happens.
So, repeat again. Have you been to the West Coast?
I went to an island outside of Seattle for a cousin's wedding.
Oh, okay. So, there's a lot of missions
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of convents and monasteries along the West Coast.
Because Catholicism.
Because the colonizers, mostly the Spanish with the influenza. So,
Unfortunately.
oh yeah, definitely, unfortunately. There was a point in time where they couldn't explain, science. They couldn't explain things that they saw on the horizon, and that comes with today's story.
Okay.
So, the Dark Watchers. Have you heard about these?
No, but it sounds like a horror thing, a horror movie thing.
I mean, we did talk about the last 2 episodes. We talked about the Watchers because it was the Walkers and the Wendy's. They look like these guys.
Oh, I know why it sounds a little bit familiar. Boyfriend and I watched a movie last weekend called The Watchers.
Yeah,
but it was based in
Ireland.
Scotland.
Yeah, somewhere over there.
Yeah, and it was very weird. Like it was a good movie, just a little weird.
So the premise for that movie is based off of Windy Boys and flesh pedestrians. So the Dark Watchers are kind of what those stories, the outside of what they look like, is based off of.
Okay.
So Dark Watchers, also known by early Spanish settlers as Los Vigilantes Oscuros, is a name given by given to a group of entities in California folklore, purportedly seen observing travelers along the Santa Lucia Mountains, which is the mountain range that goes all the way down to LA.
Yeah.
They're described as tall, sometimes giant-sized, featureless, dark silhouettes. So kind of like the Watchers, how they're just these big, tall
humanoid shapes.
They are often adored with brimmed hats or walking sticks and are most often reported to be seen in the hours around twilight or dawn.
Okay.
They are said to motionlessly watch travelers from the horizon along the mountain range. These Dark Watchers are a group of mysterious dark human-like creatures who stand on the hills, ridges, and peaks of the mountains of California, such as St. Lucia and Mount Mungus, Mount Graham of Arizona. They supposedly watch those who wander into the mountains and are not aggressive. They just like to watch.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that's just their watching has ulterior motives.
Well, I mean, yeah. Says every horror novel ever.
Right.
They supposedly watch those who wander into the mountains, and they are most often spotted around twilight and are usually seen staring upwards at the sky while standing atop the mountains. They assume some sort of spirits, however, their origins are unknown. We'll get to that. According to legend, no one has seen one up close, and if someone were to approach them, they disappear.
I mean, obviously.
Despite ephemeral nature and the claims that they only appear to hikers with low-tech, old-school gear, stories of these cryptids go back hundreds, if not thousands of years. Some people trace a legend to the pre-colonial oral stories of the Chumash, the indigenous people that were all over California, and the Channel Islands over 13,000 years ago. Not 1,300, 13,000. So, while there are many Chumash accounts of various creatures in The December's Child by Thomas Blackburn, it's the complete written story of Chumash stories. It's unclear whether any of it describes Dark Watchers. So, sometimes attributed to the Chumash people who historically inhabited the central and southern coastal regions of California, nothing analogous to the legend appears to exist in their entire mythology.
Interesting.
So notice how it goes from one thing to another to another.
Mm-hmm.
It's like passing the blame.
Because
So,
nobody wants to claim them.
right. These entities, whatever they are, have not just influenced the local people, they influence some pretty famous people too. The earliest written accounts of Dark Watchers go back to the 1700s when Spanish colonialists, which we discussed,
Hmm.
gave the mysterious beings their names, los vigilantes oscuros. Since then, sightings have continued, and in 1937, the creatures made their literary debut. Let's see here. Oral tales went across generations to warn that approaching these specters could result in one's disappearance. Their tales are often attached to the Chumash people, but apparently indigenous Americans don't have anything at all like that, and they went across to 4 different other native tribes that were based out in California, Oregon, and Washington, and none of them had the story. But do you know who wrote about them famously?
Who?
John Steinbeck.
Really?
Yeah. So he gave them a brief mention in his book because Steinbeck's from California. He had a big house out there. It was taken in one of the fires, but the outline of his house is still out there.
Mm-hmm.
So the book was called Flight, and it included in the 1938 collection of his short stories, The Long Valley. The direct quote. Pepe looked suspiciously back every minute or so. His eyes sought the tops of the ridges ahead. Once, on a white barren spur, he saw a black figure for a moment, but he looked quickly away, for it was one of the Dark Watchers. No one knew who the Watchers were. Pardon? Excuse me. Nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never show interest in them. They did not bother one who stayed on the trail and minded his own business.
I mean, that makes sense. Like with most cryptids or, you know, spookies, you mind your business, you don't get got.
You don't see anything, you don't hear anything, you don't do anything.
Right?
So,
saw something? No, you didn't.
Right. So a lot of the time when we would go hiking out in California, you watch for like bobcats and bears and mountain lions, the normal, the usual shit.
Predatory actual animals.
Well, in all my times of hiking, I've never, I've seen something on the horizon, but it was just trees. Like after a certain amount of time, the fog passed. And it was a tree. So, illusions, hallucinations, or interpretation of natural stimulus brought on by exhaustion or isolation have been proposed by psychologists.
I mean, that's valid.
Infrared sound, which can be generated by wind, can cause feelings of uneasiness and anxiety in some people and is frequently connected to paranormal sightings.
Also, makes sense.
So a lot of, because I did do research in college for, random shit. One of them was Area 51. The area outside Area 51 has been known to have lots of infrasound, which is...
because it's in a valley in between a whole bunch of mountains.
Exactly. And so a lot of the wind would...
It by itself is just as spooky.
It is. And I mean, yes, there is an Area 51. Yes, there's Area 51 Cafe, which I've been to. They have really good pie. But,
their gas station's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got a giant, they have one in Lake...
UFO thing on top of it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. But, it explains so much of what... Even though I'm a medium, even though, I'm a witch and I see things and I do things, I still use science as my first basis.
Yep. If it can be explained scientifically,
it's fine.
Even better.
So, an optical illusion known as the Brocken Spectre is a plausible explanation for this main legend. The Brocken Spectre, also known as the Mountain Spectre, can occur in certain atmospheric conditions when the sun is at a particular angle. The subject's shadow can be cast on a cloud bank around them, creating the illusion of a large, shadowy humanoid figure.
Okay.
So it's essentially their shadow.
They're getting thrown up.
Yeah.
Okay.
However, there is still folklore that warns while the Dark Watchers make it their mission to sternly observe those in the mountains below, it is wisest to turn away as those who dared to approach these figures vanish into oblivion. Unfortunately, tales of the Dark Watchers are just about as vague as the shapes themselves, but authors like Steinbeck added their own mythos around the phenomenon. So John Steinbeck said that he felt the presence of a watcher once.
Okay.
No one knew who the Watchers were, he wrote, nor where they lived, but it was better to ignore them and never show interest in them. But he did grow up on the stories like I did, where it was very much like stay in the house, don't wander off the trail, don't go where you're not supposed to, right?
Right.
His own mother told Steinbeck how she would bring food to the mountains as an offering to the creatures, only later to see flowers had been grown in their place.
I mean, it makes sense.
So Steinbeck's son Thomas went on to co-author a book about the Watchers with painter Benjamin Brode. The Watchers have been seen many times over the years, with stories about them dating back to the Indians, which we stated earlier. Steinbeck's mother, Olive, had passed down this story down to Thomas, and not only was it her, but the school teacher and a bunch of other people in his life did make this a bigger story than what it was.
Okay.
She had stated that she used to go to Big Sur, which is actually really, really pretty.
Okay.
However, the trails, you can get lost really easily.
Yeah.
Because it's not, a lot of the national parks in California have these like wooden rails or metal rails that go through them. Big Sur doesn't. It's just,
that's terrifying.
Found paths. Yeah. Oh yeah. You got to be careful. So another author wrote about the Dark Watchers named Robinson Jeffers.
But like having two last names as a first name.
Right. Seriously. Like that guy I knew in high school named Michael Michaels.
Right.
The original Eminem. He wrote about forms that look human, but certainly are not human in his poem. Such Counsels You Gave to Me is the title. Sometime in the mid-60s, the Monterey Peninsula local and former high school principal went on a hiking trip in the Santa Lucia Mountains when he spotted a dark figure in a hat and a cape, standing on a rock, surveying the area. When the principal called out to the other hikers and looked behind him, the creature vanished.
I feel like they're just guardians.
Yeah.
Land guardians that are just surveilling and keeping an eye on things. And
like the forest guardians from
Yep.
Studio Ghibli.
Yep.
While there is no actual...
They're just there.
Right. So while there's no physical evidence to prove that these figures are anything more than visual anomalies. I got it right. Anonymous.
Words are hard today, guys.
Listen, English is my second language. Many people...
It's my first language, and it's still hard.
Many people have snapped... I'm fine. Although there is no physical evidence, people have snapped photos of them. From these photographs, some scientists have tried to determine what it is that people think that they have seen and what they actually have seen. So there are actual names for these items across the world. I'm going to mispronounce this because it's Gaelic. But the Amphir Lyeth Moor, also known as the Big Gray Man, is a giant that follows hikers in Ben Macui, the highest peak of the Cairngorms in Scotland. Once, yeah, it, huge peaks.
Yeah.
One such theory is that the Dark Watchers are simply the result of pareidolia, a psychological phenomenon in which human brains seek out recognizable or familiar patterns in shapes or otherwise unclear images that they see.
I mean, also makes sense.
It's also seen in Germany, known by the locals of the Harz Mountains as the Brockenspectre, which we talked about earlier. There are a few theories, one of which is ordinary shadows cast by swaying trees, which is what I told you, obscured by fog or mist, or being twisted into humanoid shapes by our brains, because we're trying to see something relative.
Yeah.
Of course, many encounters with the Watchers might also be the shadows of swaying trees. Curiously, these beings are always encountered at high altitudes where oxygen supply to the brain is hampered.
Of course.
And that is the story of Dark Watchers.
So the movie The Watchers,
so creepy.
It was a. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I watched it with Josh before he left.
Okay. Yeah. So for those that haven't seen it, it is these fairy creatures. So, and they're basically kind of keeping these people in a box so they can watch them and be able to clone their movements, their facial expressions, so that way then they could try to escape the woods that they're locked in and go out into the
real world,
human world. A very, very weird movie. I mean, otherwise, like, it was good. It was just a bit strange.
So that's what the Flesh Pedestrians and the Wendy Boys are. That's their story. Even though I did 2 different episodes of them, that's what they were. And I mean, I watched it, and afterwards I was just like, my skin just, I felt like I wanted to crawl out of it, because I don't like, because their faces, when they try to mimic people, because, you know, I used to hang out with a tribe when I lived back in California, and I started to hang out with one in Virginia before I moved, but the way they would describe it, their face, it was like inbreeding had happened or something like that, and their eyes were just a little askew, or their nose was just off just by a fraction, or their lips. It was just small, like an extra digit on their hand or extra toes. You know, it
like, quick glance, you wouldn't notice it, but the longer you looked at them, the more you saw.
Right. And I mean, like, if you go back to the last 2 episodes, I do delve into that, like, in depth, because that's my folklore. You don't go outside. You don't whistle at night. You don't sing at night. You don't talk at night. You try to be very respectful. And if you do talk at night, you don't sing song.
Right.
And it's just, I went, my neighbor, actually, love her to death, Skylar. Her husband and I talked about this in depth 2 nights ago, because he came over to check out my car. Did you know that it did not need AC Freon? Did you know that? It just needed coolant.
Oh.
So, of course,
the more you know.
I was like, I bought this. It's like $30-something. I don't need it. But the more you know. So, he told me, he's like, I just like to tempt fate. I like to whistle at night. And me and Skylar just turned and looked at him, and I went, the fuck you do? You ain't doing that shit at my house. He's like,
fuck no. Because then he leaves and you're stuck with it.
He's like, what's going to happen? I said, wait. And she just looked at me and she goes, you're not going to do anything. And I said, no, it'll happen to him, not to you. I was like, you guys are like blanketed, protected, but if you want me to, I'll remove it from him. And he's like, no, I'm good. And I was like, okay, don't do that. Don't, just stop it.
Quit doing stupid shit.
Right. But I mean, like, growing up with those stories, like Los Ojoritos and Skinny Boys and all that stuff. By the way, for the Skinny Boys episode, we called him Gene the whole time. And for the Windies, we called them Baconators. Which is kind of funny. When I was going back and editing the episodes, we were talking about Baconers. I was like, I really want a hamburger right now. Did I got one?
Like
No.
the 4th of July. It makes me want a
hot dog real bad. No, but like, I love doing the research on these cryptids. Like Meg specifically requested October to only be about spooky shit, and I'm so grateful she did. But I'm sorry, Meg.
It's so much fun, but at the same time,
she brought up murder the last episode, which you know what that means. We can talk about murder.
I mean, but because like if it's tied to a cryptid, then I mean, obviously.
Well, somebody used the Baconator defense.
Wow.
So not the actual name, obviously, but the name for the skin flesh people.
Yep. Flesh pedestrians.
Yes, flesh pedestrians. And so they called it that, and it was the Rougarou episode. And so what did I call it? Hold on, it's a really funny title. Give me a second.
I remember you sent it to me because I cackled about it.
Yeah. Skinny jeans worn by coyotes and drive Subarus. The tales of skinwalkers and Rougarous.
Guys, we have so much fun coming up with these titles.
Let me tell you. And then the one for... Hold on. I think I have the one for Baconators already done. Because I have them in the descriptions. We have a descriptions tab in our group chat on our Drive account. Let me... Sir, this is a Wendy's. You can't have it your way. So-called Baconators and swamp lizards.
Still love it.
I know. I have to do the one for Selkies and Mermaids. But as we're closing up here, did you know that we have a new listener?
We do.
Would you like to know where they're from?
Yes.
Buongiorno, principessa. Aggiame Italiano.
Yes.
So, no, I speak terrible Italian. By the way, my cousin's better at it than I am. So is my mom and my
but also, you know, it's like with most things. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Right. So my uncle, my cousin, my mother, they all speak Italian. Do I? No. So now, not only do we have the usual, now we have Japan, Australia, Switzerland, and Italy.
Yay!
Woohoo! Love that. We got 74.
I'm so excited.
74 listeners.
I love when we gain new people.
I know, seriously. And our most popular episode, of course, is the first one. The second one is the Green River Killer. And the third is Lucy Letby.
Oh, wow. I guess because it's still an
ongoing case.
A more recent case.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, we did talk about a re-up with our lovely doctor sister Sylvia. It was published on September 18th.
Yes.
And it was the return to Lucy Letby's Baby Boom Bedlam. Try to say that 20 times fast. Baby Boom Bedlam. But that's all I got for today. That's it.
Yeah, same.
But stay feral, bite the hand that feeds you, and we'll see you all next time.
Okay, bye.
Next time on the Pandemonium Witches.
And it is a Welsh word with a wide range of possible meanings, including ghosts, spirits, and night wanderers, human or supernatural, up to no good outlaws of the wild.
Thanks, I hate it.
And takes a perverse pleasure in terrorizing people.
I, too, take a perverse pleasure in terrorizing people.
It's Christmas whenever your heart desires, just like Halloween.
We're not bringing, Mariah Carey into this because she hasn't defrosted yet.
Okay, but like one human foot and one hooven foot, like that just makes me think of somebody walking with like only one heel on, the little uneven gait.